And good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Coffee with EMCSA session. My name is Rob Walker. I have the privilege today of being joined by Ms. Teri Kruger. Teri, how are you this morning?
I'm doing very well. Excellent. Thank you. So glad we're in spring and the sun is shining.
Fantastic. Yeah, me too. It's nice to have a bit of warmer weather. Teri, obviously great to have you with us this morning. You're going to be a speaker at EMCSA next year. Before we go further, maybe you want to give us a little bit of quick background, for those who don't know you, a short introduction of who is Teri Kruger and what she's managed to achieve in the many years. I've obviously seen it, but I would love our kind of watchers to hear it from yourself.
Well, Teri is very passionate about people and the planet. And so basically, I've been focusing on sustainable practices for the past couple of decades, or 2 decades. I've worked in the energy sector right from liquid fuels, where I did the paraffin safety problem, trying to change the technology there. I've worked in firefighting, which now became the Working on Fire program. I have worked with medical doctors in injury prevention initiatives around the world, which is why I thought this would be a great opportunity to speak about what happens to our children in traffic. And I've also worked in the renewable energy sector, very much in terms of utility scale, but now as Synergetics, we're actually facilitating more commercial industrial type operations, where we will assist you with a solar system with battery storage, and obviously electric mobility is very high on my agenda.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds very exciting. You've obviously missed out. I know that you were the first lady in renewable energy in South Africa to receive an award. Can you talk to us a little bit about that back in 2013? What was that award for? And obviously a very proud moment for yourself.
Thank you. Yes, it was with the Businesswomen's Association. They have these regional awards, and in terms of the corporate category, I was working with UV Renewable Energies at the time, which is a very prominent player in renewable energies here in South Africa. Myself and Chris Bellingham were the very first 2 South African employees. So my role was Director of Stakeholder Relations. So it was actually the forefront of having the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Procurement Program, or the RE4IP, to be established here in South Africa. There was no program at the time. So it was a lot of engagement with a vast array of stakeholders in terms of Parliament, policy initiatives, even with our competitors, even though we weren't allowed to show any kind of collaboration, but between us, we needed to establish like the Wind Industry Association, the SAPV Industry Association. And one of the first projects I worked on was Synergetics, the South African Renewable Energy Training Center. So it's actually fantastic to actually see the manifestation of this beautiful building, and people are being trained. We had to collaborate with people from China, people from Germany, as to what kind of skills South Africa would need to be able to establish the RE4IP. So it was a lot of collaboration, speaking with many different parties, but also from a social development side, ensuring that we were very cognizant of the need to do the skills development, the upliftment of communities, engaging with farmers, giving them the benefits of having renewable energy projects on their farms and how it would actually assist them as farmers. So it was a broad scope, and yes, obviously, as you know, the industry accelerated at a very, very fast rate. So yes, it was a great accolade. I've also actually won a National Science, Engineering and Technology Forum for the work I did with the paraffin safety, which was working with low-income households and trying to change the technology around the stoves that are being used, paraffin stoves and heaters particularly. So I chaired the SABS committee for a couple of years there, and got some regulations around the stoves, and published in medical journals with some pediatric surgeons. So I've done a lot of things, and it's really about the humanity. It's about understanding the impacts that all of this has on humanity and also on our planet, and very particularly on children. I'm a great proponent that children should come first in our design and our technologies, and that's really where my perspective comes from.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds fantastic. It sounds really exciting, and obviously you've done a lot in recent times. And before we jump onto your topic at EMCSA, which I think is really, really interesting and combines really well, talk to us a little bit about your current work with Synergetics and what you guys are busy with at the moment. Maybe any exciting projects that you guys are rolling out at the moment.
Yes, actually, one of my passion projects is the Red Cross Children's Hospital. With UV, we did a 11 kilowatt peak rooftop system back in 2011. I started that, and as I say, there was no regulations, there was nothing to guide that. So I had to get involved with the Western Cape Government Office because, it is their thing. So that project came about, and we're looking to expand that now. And I've got a couple of international companies that I work with that have done a lot of work into Africa. So we're looking at funding projects into Africa and also having the expertise of an American company that has done a lot of work for the Department of Defense. So they've, like for instance, been in South Sudan where there is nothing, and they suddenly created this village for the department there. So water, waste, but also obviously very much electricity. Yes, and I'm very involved in women businesses. I'm actually on a course at the moment with Moody's that are sponsoring training specifically for women-owned businesses for us to be internationally relevant so that we can get larger projects. So manufacturing, looking at facilities, supporting small businesses to grow, but very much also with a wonderful South African producer of lithium-ion batteries. Very high quality, and very proud of the work that they've done, and I'm now a reseller for them as well.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like you definitely like to keep yourself busy and have a lot on your plate. So congrats to that. Let's fast forward to EMCSA next year. You've got a very interesting topic, which I think maybe a lot of people wouldn't immediately associate with a event or a conference that's talking about e-mobility, but I think one that's incredibly important. And your topic is a future reimagined, saving children from traffic. Talk to us a little bit about how, obviously we all know the stats about children in traffic and unnecessary deaths and especially some of the horrors on South African roads. How does this tie in with the move now towards e-mobility, and how are you linking that and seeing that opportunity because of e-mobility that we can remove the scourge from our lives, so to speak?
Well, very obviously there's going to be quite a lot of infrastructure change, and what I was involved in a study sponsored by UNICEF and University of City of Cape Town in 2018, where I actually went right around the country, all 9 provinces. I interviewed over 200 different stakeholders, from public health, from health to enforcement to forensics, first responders, trying to understand what are the issues. We also did a legal and policy analysis as well. So it was a very comprehensive study through an organization called childsafe.org.za. They're based at the Red Cross Children's Hospital. I've been working alongside them for more than a decade or so already. And it came up that globally, South Africa is one of the worst places in the world for our children in terms of traffic. We have probably globally 500 deaths per day with children, and South Africa, ours is about double that. And it's about to increase, which is against bucking the trend for most higher income countries where they will be dropping their death rates. So this is a huge public health issue which impacts all of us. Anybody who's a taxpayer is actually paying for this problem, apart from those directly affected in terms of, having the tragedy of a child being harmed, let alone dying. And unfortunately, in our laws and policies, they are not well represented. which was the purpose of this study, to actually look at how they're represented and how we can change that. One of the outcomes was that if we just change the engineering from a traffic-centric approach to change our infrastructure to a human-centric approach. In other words, we're putting the humans and the pedestrians and cyclists at the forefront and then designing for vehicles with the humans in mind. It's a very key aspect to infrastructure development that needs to happen anyway. So let's try and look at that and put the children first agenda in the forefront of changing the infrastructure.
Fantastic. And obviously, when you talk about that, I'm assuming where the link is that there's going to be a massive change as people get used to EVs and e-mobility. And I think we've often spoken about, and I spoke to George Many the other week from Auto Trader, and we used the analogy of somebody going from a horse-drawn car to the first petrol engines. It's pretty much the same change from a petrol ICE car into an electric car. And what you're advocating for, from what it sounds like for me, is that part of that change is that we also need to change the way we do our infrastructure so that pedestrians become front and foremost, if I'm reading between the lines.
Absolutely. We've got about 7.5 million youth that actually access education every single day. And a lot of them have to sometimes walk along main, like the N2 highway in KwaZulu-Natal, for instance, and there's no infrastructure there in terms of pavements or anything else. But also the vehicles themselves, they're far more sophisticated, and they would have some proximity alerts, for instance. And that could also help in terms of reducing the incidents with children. And even in the interiors, seat belts have been proven to be one of the main ways of actually keeping your children safe. I know from a poverty alleviation point of view, there has been some difficulty, and which is why Child Safe in Cape Town actually does give away car seats to some of the less able communities. But all of these aspects, apart from cleaning up the air and just walking down the highway every single day to access school and having all this carbon monoxide, so it is a public health approach to say, how can we accelerate the re-engineering so that it considers children, and then our children can grow up healthy and with all their faculties and get the education that they need.
Fantastic. Well, Teri, I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a session that maybe people don't immediately associate with what's happening in South Africa, but as we talk about the steep change curve that's coming, I think you are obviously talking about a vital element that needs to be considered as we change. Let's change for the better, and let's change for the better not only of people who are commuting in vehicles, but as you say, the pedestrians and the other users of the road. So I absolutely love your work. I commend what you are doing, and very, very excited to hear you speak at EMCSA next year. Do you have any final thoughts or comments that you'd like to leave with us before we wrap up our coffee session this morning?
Yes, the fact that South Africa's got quite a robust automotive industry as well, it's a great time for us to pivot and to be maybe some of the front runners in terms of electric mobility worldwide, which will revitalize our automotive industry and manufacturing and our economy. Those are all very, very important factors as well.
Fantastic. Well, Teri, thank you very, very much for your time on this Wednesday morning. I really, really appreciate it. From all of us here at EMCSA, we're looking forward to having you speak next year and hearing more about your topic. And very excited to hear what you're going to share with us in March 2022.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the time.
Fantastic. So that was Teri Kruger. She's one of our speakers at EMCSA next year, speaking on a topic which I think is very valuable and maybe one which a lot of people haven't considered. And that's how, with the change to e-mobility, do we also protect our pedestrians and other road users from unnecessary harm. Really, really interesting. And I think it's a great topic that as we're starting to change, we change for the better for all. From myself, Rob, and the whole EMCSA team, we hope you enjoyed this Coffee with EMCSA session, and we look forward to the next one. Thank you very much. Goodbye.